Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there is a ton of news stories to get into today. So let's start off with today's big WWE news story. And really, it wasn't the story I was actually going to start off with today. I'm making the graphics, getting ready for today's show. And suddenly, I see this story, yet another story from Bodyslam.net. Cassidy Haynes, major shout out, major credit to Cassidy because the guy is having an unbelievable 6 weeks or so. Now, Cassidy's been around for ages. Bodyslam.net has been around for ages. But with the stories he's been breaking about Daniel Bryan signing with AEW, details on CM Punk's upcoming AEW debut, Cassidy Haynes is at it again. Bodyslam.net are at it again because a huge story regarding the possible uncertainty that is surrounding SummerSlam right now and possibly a return, unfortunately, to the WWE ThunderDome, with WWE almost anticipating a return to the ThunderDome is imminent within the next few weeks. This is a massive story if true. Now, of course, SummerSlam, it's scheduled to take place on August 21st from Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada, or at least they hope so, because it's been previously reported that with new cases in the pandemic rising daily, both AEW and WWE have been discussing contingency plans internally in case of more restrictions coming down regarding mass gatherings. We're already seeing certain states, certain cities already putting new mask mandates in place, already putting new rules on vaccination certifications in place. Lots of different things and moving parts going on right now when it comes to live performances, mass gatherings, sporting events, etc. in the United States. Now, this obviously proposes an issue to the likes of WWE and AEW, who have big shows booked out for the remainder of the year, whether it's WWE for SummerSlam or any of the shows they've got booked up through their Summer of Cena and Arena tour that they're currently on right now, whether it's AEW, of course, they've got the Grand Slam edition of Dynamite booked for New York City and Arthur Ashe Stadium. That looks possibly uncertain right now. So there is certainly a lot going on right now, and WWE are anticipating things to go bad, essentially. Now, when Cassidy Haynes was speaking to sources within WWE, he was told internally that WWE expects they will have to return to the Performance Center or another venue for their ThunderDome gimmick within a couple of weeks. That is a bombshell story. If that is accurate, if that is true, that already people within WWE, senior figures and executives are already saying, you know what, in a couple of weeks, I think the ThunderDome's back. That's a massive story. That's a huge story. Now, the report continues saying that the sources stated to Cassidy that the feeling internally as of right now is that SummerSlam can/will be cancelled. SummerSlam may be cancelled. That is the feeling of those within WWE if this story is accurate. Now, the feeling is that the company fully expects they will not be on the road in 4 weeks' time, just 4 weeks' time. By the time September 5th rolls around, WWE thinks they're going to be back inside the ThunderDome, as there is concern about how, quote, they will be able to proceed in a non-contained environment. So basically that means inside arena shows are going to be difficult. Stadium shows outside where you can socially distance, where maybe there won't be as strict rules on vaccinations, etc. That's another thing. So SummerSlam possibly could still go ahead in that stadium setting, but there is a feeling that it could be cancelled depending on what the state of Nevada decides to do with imposing sanctions or restrictions or lockdowns, etc. When it comes to certainly the inside indoor arena shows like the ones they've got planned for, say, Madison Square Garden or wherever across the country, that's going to be certainly difficult. Now, currently, the belief within WWE is that they do not expect another round of lockdowns, but are fully anticipating bans on mass gatherings to potentially come down over the next few weeks. Now, of course, when it comes to this, we're going to have to take it on a day-by-day basis. We're going to have to continue monitoring this situation, especially when it comes to it's slightly different. So over here in the UK, usually, not all the time, because we did have a tier system that pretty much failed universally, to be honest with you. But in the States, it's kind of done by a state-by-state basis, sometimes by a city-by-city basis. Over here in the UK, it's kind of different. It's kind of one-size-fits-all kind of situation when it comes to restrictions, etc. So we don't know. This is going to be a developing story. This is going to be something that certainly does impact WWE, AEW, professional wrestling, and sports in general over the course of the next few weeks. We're going to have to continue to monitor the situations. Obviously, there are certain situations when it comes to vaccination rates. Get your vaccine, get vaccinated. Meanwhile, though, more and more of the country in the United States are experiencing a massive surge and rises of the Delta variant of COVID-19. So there certainly is it's a significant story, this, and Again, this has just been reported in the last couple of hours or so by Cassidy, and it'll be interesting to see what other reporters are saying about this, because I think Cassidy's the first one to break this story, that there is a concern within WWE that SummerSlam is going to be cancelled, and a feeling of inevitability that WWE is going to return to the Thunderdome. Look, all of this, it sucks. It absolutely sucks. There's no skirting around that feeling. It sucks. Nobody wants to be in the Thunderdome. Nobody wants to be back at those empty shows or those restricted shows and all that kind of stuff. Ultimately, though, what comes first? Safety has to come first. Safety is paramount. The health and safety of the fans, the wrestlers, the employees, the staff, whoever. That is paramount. And at the end of the day, I don't want to see people dying because of pro wrestling. I don't want to see people dying or getting seriously ill or sick just because they went to a pro wrestling event or just because a wrestler wrestled at a pro wrestling event. That is so not worth it. Life is far, far more important. So you have to look at it that way. It's just it's a shame because there is so much hype and anticipation about going back on the road for WWE and AEW. This isn't just limited to WWE, but if we're talking about WWE in this video, it's a WWE video, it's a WWE news video we're doing here. You know, they had the great first SmackDown that they had in Texas. They had the video package where Vince McMahon was welcoming back the fans, and you got new sets and this really exciting period of... It felt like a big push towards the second half of the year with John Cena returning, SummerSlam on the horizon, Becky Lynch, of course, returning in October probably now, Sasha Banks coming back, all of these names, and the big match of Reigns versus Cena inside of a stadium at SummerSlam. That was going to be WWE's WrestleMania this year. I'm not even talking about Goldberg, Bobby Lashley. But all of that stuff was incredibly exciting, and it felt like finally there was a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. That's what it felt. I don't think anyone thought the pandemic was over. I think if you did, you're probably being quite naive, to be honest with you. But it felt like there was finally a bit of light at the end of the tunnel with this, and sometimes it's the hope that gets you, isn't it? And that's the frustrating thing here, is that everyone had kind of hoped that we were returning to a sense of normality. We were returning to a sense of having fans back inside the arenas, having fans inside stadiums, and going from town to town week after week, and having big-name wrestlers back, and just kind of putting the awfulness that's been the past 16 months or so behind us. And already it's back, and we've been back to live shows for a month, if that, 4 weeks, and the expectation is after another 4 weeks that's going to be it. That sucks. That absolutely sucks. And considering from a WWE perspective how tough some of those Thunderdome episodes of Raw and SmackDown were to watch, it really sucks. That's the situation. It really sucks, and I don't think anyone wants to go back to that. You know, have these shows that WWE have been producing inside the arenas with crowds in attendance, have they been perfect? No. The Raw on Monday was dreadful, absolutely awful. But having those fans there does make it at least feel more watchable and feel more palatable to watch, and you can kind of get through it. And just, it's like going back to that, just, it sucks. It absolutely sucks. So it will remain to be seen. I mean, we might be looking at a situation where WWE does return to the Thunderdome, but the stadium show for August is a possibility because it's outside. Again, I don't know. I mean, I don't know tons about Allegiant Stadium, so you can let me know in the comment section below that... If I'm correct, I think it does have a roof, but it can retract, which possibly makes it a bit different in terms of a mass gathering. I don't know. And again, I don't think WWE truly knows about this right now because these things are so fluid. And look, the state of Nevada as well, obviously they're hopefully going to be putting lives over pro wrestling and events, but also you have to realize that SummerSlam would be making a lot of money for the local economy there, and that will play into it as well. So it's not a case of Nevada wants to have to force WWE to cancel SummerSlam, and look, we know WWE at this point, if they feel they can do it, they'll do it. You have to remember with WrestleMania 36 last year, even when places were shutting down, WWE took ages to announce that WrestleMania was being moved to the Performance Center and all that kind of stuff because they were desperate. They were absolutely desperate to get that show on. And even in the pandemic, they were going to do it. So this isn't certainly the last we've heard about this. This is going to be a big story, I think, developing over the course of the next however many weeks, and it's going to be fascinating to see truly what happens. I want to talk about Ronda Rousey and Bray Wyatt. Now, this was going to be the story that I started off with today. And before that, the story by Cassidy Haynes was put out there because Ronda Rousey has lashed out at WWE fans over the release of Bray Wyatt. Now, Ronda Rousey took to Twitter yesterday and lashed out at WWE fans after Bray Wyatt's recent WWE departure. Now, as noted, fans on Raw this week in Chicago chanted, "We want Wyatt," during the in-ring segment with Bill Goldberg, WWE Hall of Famer, and WWE Champion Bobby Lashley. Now, this came, of course, after WWE released Bray Wyatt from his contract over the weekend, which came as a massive shock to the pro wrestling world. Now, Rousey took to Twitter yesterday afternoon and knocked fans for how they treated Bray Wyatt at times, pointing out to how they chanted, quote, "We want beach balls," during Wyatt's match with Matt Hardy at the Elimination Chamber 2018 pay-per-view, a match which Matt Hardy won. This is what Rousey had to say, quote, "I've seen you same fans chanting 'We want Wyatt' last night, chanting 'We want beach balls' over Bray Wyatt performing. If WWE treated him like he was expendable, it was because you ungrateful idiots did it first." Now, I have a lot to say about this. You know what? I was actually stunned, to be honest with you. I was stunned with the amount of people that were so, agreed with Ronda Rousey. Because she's got a point. She's got a point. Oh, Ronda Rousey, you just don't like to hear it. You fans don't like to hear the truth. But she's got a point. You're not wrong. You were chanting that. And look, I've got so many different perspectives on this. I can understand where Ronda Rousey is coming from, but I think if you look at that and take her word for that, I think you're removing so much context from all of that, and I think it's ridiculous, and I think it's a very ironic statement. Ronda Rousey, for whatever reason, has a bug up her behind because the WWE fans, not that they turned on her, but they started to boo her during her time as a WWE superstar. Are we ever going to see Ronda Rousey wrestle again? I think it's more and more unlikely as time goes on. She's obviously pregnant right now. I don't even know if she's under contract to WWE anymore. Do they miss her? Ronda Rousey's a name. She probably sells tickets. She does get pay-per-view buys. WWE would have her back in a heartbeat after her pregnancy. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But fans started to turn on Ronda Rousey because there was the rise of Becky Lynch during that time. And pro wrestling fans hate what they perceive to be an injustice. They found it was an injustice that someone like Ronda Rousey, an outsider coming into pro wrestling, got this massive, massive push, and and suddenly the fans, not that they discredited her for her work, she was there most of the time, but they wanted to see Becky Lynch succeed, and Ronda Rousey doesn't like people booing her. So for whatever reason, she has a bug up her behind about that. That's what that is, and she's said several times that the fans in pro wrestling are toxic, and she hates them, and all that kind of stuff. The issue is, when it comes to the whole, we want beach balls chants, and we are awesome chants, and all that kind of stuff, I'm with you. I don't like it. I think it's disrespectful to those that are putting their lives and their bodies on the line in the ring. It is disrespectful. But you have to realize why they do it. There is a very small pocket of those people that are doing those chants just to be annoying or just to be loud or just to get attention. There is people that do that, but it's very, very small. In reality, when people chant, "We want beach balls," or they chant, "We are awesome," or they do whatever, they do the wave, or they do anything like that, it's because what they're being presented to them in the ring there or in front of them, it doesn't capture their attention or they don't like. When they're chanting, "We want beach balls," that isn't a slight at Bray Wyatt. That isn't a slight at Matt Hardy in the ring. They're chanting, "We want beach balls," because that's more entertaining than what they're being presented. They're chanting that at WWE. They're chanting that at the back. They're chanting that at Vince McMahon, at Bruce Pritchard, at the creative team, at the producers, at whoever, saying, "We don't like this. We don't like this. We don't like what you're presenting to us. Give her something good." It's very difficult also to chant, "We don't like what we're being creatively presented, and we don't like good talent like Bray Wyatt getting creatively chopped up at the knees." It's not a very catchy chant, Ronda. That's the problem there. So when you look at it like that and you say, well, you were chanting, "We want Wyatt back," yet you were chanting, "We want beach balls" during his match a couple of years ago. Remember, that wasn't the Fiend Bray Wyatt as well. That was a watered down version of Bray Wyatt that debuted in 2013 and creatively, time after time after time after time, lost big matches to the point where he was in a goofy comedy feud with Matt Hardy that even then they didn't allow Matt Hardy to be broken Matt Hardy and have this great feud with Bray Wyatt like people had envisioned before, because WWE creatively creatively is void. They are null. They don't know how creatively to do anything like that. So the fans were chanting, "We want beach balls," because guess what? It sucked. It sucked. It was bad creative. It was bad booking. It was bad television. It was bad pro wrestling. Again, that's not a slight at Bray Wyatt. That's not a slight at Matt Hardy. That's a slight at WWE. That's a slight at Vince McMahon. When things don't work out well, it's really easy to blame the fans. Oh, it's the fans' fault. It's the fans' fault. Look in the mirror. Look in the mirror in these situations. That is what is so frustrating time and time again, is that WWE or WWE sympathizers, justifiers, loyalists, whatever you want to call them, refuse to look in the mirror. Oh, wait a minute. A great talent like Bray Wyatt, who came up with this really creative character like The Fiend, and it was so unique. It could have been this generation's version of The Undertaker. It could have been amazing. We could have done all this stuff. How did that not get over? Oh, wait, it did, and yet we still ruined it. We still creatively cut it off at the knees. Whose fault is that? Wait a minute. Could that be our fault? Could that be Vince McMahon's fault? Could that be Bruce Pritchard's fault? Could that be the creative team's fault? No, it's the fans' fault. The fans don't understand our genius. No. When is it like before? Oh, the paying customer's always right. The fans are always right. We listen to the fans. You don't. You don't. Stop blaming the fans. Blame the people that really have power there, because you can say the fans have power, but we don't anymore because they don't care. Blame those people in power. Blame Vince McMahon. Blame Bruce Pritchard. Blame Nick Khan. Blame those people, because they're the ones that get it wrong. And I'm so tired of seeing the situation of suddenly these people, when they blame the fans, oh, it's your fault. No, it's not. No, it's not. And you can keep blaming the fans, and guess what? The fans are watching less and less, because guess what? They're tired of it. They're tired of the poor television, and they're tired of the excuses of, oh, it's the fans' fault. You know, we're not ungrateful. As a fan, we're not ungrateful. We talk about you on social media. We make you trend. We pay money. And yes, you put your bodies on the line. I'm not one of those fans to say, CM Punk, we paid for your house, because we didn't. Everyone, when they're in the ring, they earn that. And I have respect for that. But to say that we're ungrateful, we have to put up with a show like Monday Night Raw, 3 hours of it the past week. Raw sold out in Chicago. They paid their money. They can chant what they want. They can chant they want Bray Wyatt because they liked Bray Wyatt. They liked the Fiend character. They like what he brought to the table. And they can chant we want beach balls during a segment and a match that's creatively null and void, because the creative team and Vince McMahon and everyone backstage are so stuck in the past that they have no idea what the fans want anymore. So much so that when things do go wrong, they blame the fans. What crazy environment is that? It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. Now, another name that could be on his way out soon is Adam Cole. Now, there's been a big situation recently when it comes to Adam Cole's contract expiring, and WWE reportedly has not yet offered a new contract to the former NXT champion. Now, it was exclusively reported by Wrestling Inc. Over the weekend that Cole's NXT contract is set to expire after SummerSlam later this month. Of course, it was set to expire after the Great American Bash in July, but Cole extended it. He agreed to work through SummerSlam week and then reevaluate things. Now, in an update, word is now that Cole has not formally been offered a new full-on contract by WWE as of yesterday, according to Fightful Select. However, a source of influence within WWE noted that a new contract offer is, quote, obviously planned. So, again, not so much. Again, I saw that there was a load of stories floating around that Adam Cole has turned down several WWE contract offers over the course of the last few weeks. And then this story by Fightful Select, a far more reputable source, by the way, saying that no, he hasn't actually been offered a new contract as of right now. Kind of poo-poos all over that, and rightfully so. When it comes to Adam Cole, again, I don't think he's probably decided on his future yet. Obviously, he's got a lot of friends and a lot of people he's very close to in AEW. Obviously, Britt Baker, one of them, but he's very close to the Bucks, Omega, etc., from their time in Ring of Honor and Japan. So he's got options on both sides, but at the same time, he's very loyal to WWE, specifically NXT, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Matt Bloom, etc. He's got decisions to make, and I think that's why he gave himself a bit of time, saying, look, I'll work through SummerSlam and then I'll make my choice. The fact that WWE hasn't offered him a new contract right now implies to me that they are waiting for, say, a Triple H and a Shawn Michaels personally to sit down and discuss it with him. I think that's probably the most likely situation. But I think it's 50-50 right now. And I think Adam Cole has some big decisions to make. And I think he would probably, unless he gets a main roster contract in NXT, which I'm not even sure WWE's doing. If they're doing budget cuts to sign Adam Cole to a main roster contract whilst working in NXT would be kind of strange. I think he would probably make more money in AEW at this point, and would he have more opportunities available to him in AEW? That's a possibility as well. So it's very interesting right now. That Adam Cole situation is another story that's just going to be bubbling there for the next couple of weeks, and who knows? Maybe he will be All Elite by the time the month is over. Anything can happen, really can. Now, Ric Flair, of course, left WWE earlier this week. It was made official yesterday, and Ric Flair has issued a statement on his departure from the company. Of course, Wrestling Inc. and Fightful were first to report that he had left the WWE. It was reported that Flair was frustrated with creative decisions and went to WWE Chairman and CEO Vince McMahon directly. WWE then confirmed his departure with an announcement yesterday morning. This is what Flair's statement had to say on Twitter. It's definitely written by Ric Flair, by the way. I have heard Conrad Thompson, who of course is Ric Flair's son-in-law, several times say that Ric Flair capitalizes every single word, and that's exactly what he did. There are so many capitals in this statement, it's insane. So I'm sure, absolutely certain that Ric Flair himself wrote this because there's a capital letter on everything. This is what the statement by Flair had to say, quote, "I'm officially able to respond to all the press related to my requested release from WWE, which they have given me. I want to make it really clear with everyone that I'm not upset with WWE at all. They are solely responsible for putting me in the position of life that I'm in right now, where I'm seen in the brightest light ever. We have a different vision for my future. I wish them nothing but continued success. Thank you for everything. Nothing but respect." So Flair's saying that, you know, that they had different opinions on what he was doing right now, and some different in opinions, but he has no ill will and he's not upset with WWE at all. Now, Flair then spoke to People magazine and said that the departure was done on friendly terms. He said, quote, "We just didn't see eye to eye on some business opportunities that I wanted to pursue. So I asked for my release. There has been no animosity and everything has been on friendly terms." Now, he's dismissed any reports that say he messaged Vince over being frustrated over how Charlotte Flair was being booked in the company, noting they are absolutely not true. He said, quote, "It happens sometimes in business. You just don't see eye to eye. But how could I have any animosity towards the company who made me who I am? They literally made me who I am. Some of my best friends in the world work at that company. How could I possibly upset with the company where my daughter is currently the most decorated women's wrestler in history?" Now, he also said, quote, "It was a mutually agreed upon decision, and I will be moving forward to pursue other exciting endeavors, such as my own line of wine, my own network, as well as comic books. I had to make the decision personally for my business and for my brand." So I don't know if this means Flair's going to go to AEW. I still think that's a possibility and a no-brainer considering their sort of heritage when it comes to WCW. But as far as he's saying in this, when you sign a Legends contract with WWE, basically they have first priority over everything you do. So if you want to launch your own line of wine, if you want to launch your own comic book or your own network, or you want to do whatever, you have to run that by WWE. Big Show also addressed this in his departure from WWE, saying, look, so many times I wanted to do stuff, I had to run it by them, and they say no, because they have to kind of license you out to whatever company you're working with, and then WWE gets a cut. I'm sure Ric Flair several times went to WWE, say, I want to do this, I want to launch my own line of wine. WWE has their own line of wine. The Undertaker and the Ultimate Warrior, I think they have their own line of wine that is WWE licensed. So of course they would be like, well, we have our own line of wine, so we don't want you to do that. So obviously Flair would be like, right, I'll leave, because I can make just as much money doing my own things. With AEW also being an option, why wouldn't he leave? And I think to WWE, in the grand scheme of things, would they want a Ric Flair for a Legends night once a year, or Flair to make these occasional appearances? Of course they do. But Flair's not an active wrestler anymore. They don't do managers in the same way that AEW does. So to their mind, they would say, fine, go. And that's exactly what happened there. Finally, we have some news on the Raw ratings this week. And even though the show sucked, the ratings were up. In comparison to last week, I say up, they were flat from last week. Monday's live Raw drew an average of 1.821 million viewers on the USA Network, according to Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics. This is up 0.4% from last week's 1.814 million viewers. Raw drew a 0.51 rating in the 18 to 49 key demo this week. This is up 4.1% from last week. Raw drew the second best audience for the show since May 17, with the July 19 episode being the best. Of course, that was John Cena's return and the return to crowds. So, I mean, they'll be happy with that considering the competition with the Olympics right now, but they're settling back into that kind of spot that I guess is the spot that Raw is right now, that 1.8, 1.9, 1.7. That's Monday Night Raw at this point. It's a far cry from where they once were, but that's WWE, I guess, in general right now. But look, guys, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on all of these WWE news stories we've spoken about today? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved with the community, drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube. Go to the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestling News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or have you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.